Built over a flat white, the future of workflows starts here. You've just signed into a system that knows your name, your address, your date of birth, and yet one of the first questions it asks you is your name again. You sigh. Because somehow, despite having had a full conversation with the system moments earlier about your location, your role, your current task, it has no idea who you are or what you just told it. We've all been there, and we've all thought the same thing. Surely we can do better than this. At Advisory Nexus, we believe we can. And not just in theory. We're doing it, flat white in hand, sleeves rolled up, code humming. This is the story of how we're building a new kind of system, one where AI and humans work together toward a shared purpose. Most business systems are either dull forms built in isolation or flashy AI tools that talk a lot but understand little. Neither knows what happened 5 minutes ago. Neither can adapt on the fly. Neither feels like a partner. But real business requires context, continuity, and common sense. Which is exactly where our human-AI architecture steps in. We don't build chatbots, we build roles. Each assistant in our ecosystem is not just an interface. It's a functioning part of the business. Whether it's Hector, who handles health and safety, Ava, who takes care of insurance, or a yet-to-be-named accountant, each one takes on 4 core functions. Auditor scans for gaps, non-compliance, or missing steps. Mentor educates users and offers best practices. Advisor provides contextual insights, options, and guidance. Manager tracks tasks, escalates issues, nudges for follow-up. They're built to serve a purpose, not to entertain. This structure grounds everything else, from interface design to how data is stored, but it started with something simpler, a feeling. Let's talk about vibe. Not in the abstract mood board kind of way, but in the cursor, co-pilot, rapid flow kind of way. The vibe you get when you're jamming with an AI assistant in a pair programming groove, where you're not writing code so much as conducting a conversation through keystrokes. That vibe is powerful. It's the moment when the machine seems to anticipate your next move, when suggestions come faster than you can vet them, when the boundary between I wrote this and we wrote this begins to blur. But vibe, as we discovered, is only the beginning. At first we leaned into that energy. We built prototypes that felt great, sleek, responsive, kind of like your favorite jazz bar, dimly lit, moody, full of possibility. But feelings only take you so far in system design. Vibe doesn't validate, vibe doesn't debug, vibe doesn't get you through a safety audit. Enter CHOP, chat-oriented programming, as articulated by Gene Kim and Steve Pereira. CHOP is the practice of designing, debugging, and developing systems through natural conversation. It's part pair programming, part structured interrogation, and part magic. It allows for co-creation between human and AI, where the user describes, questions, rephrases, and sometimes shouts things like, "No, not that one, the other schema," at their screen. It's noisy, it's messy, and sometimes, to the uninitiated, it's utterly bonkers. But CHOP lets you do something remarkable. Build systems as you think, not in documentation, not in tickets, in real time. We'd be remiss not to offer a friendly warning to newcomers. CHOP sessions can be intense. They're often peppered with muttering, retyping, and the occasional "what just happened?" But that's part of the method. Like jazz, CHOP works best when it swings. It reminded me, oddly enough, of an old mechanic I knew growing up. A man who could take apart an engine with his eyes closed and tell you where a bolt belonged just by its weight in his hand. He didn't follow manuals, he followed rhythm. That's what CHOP feels like. The same kind of intuitive rhythm, but with logic and language instead of pistons and spanners. We even started sketching what we jokingly called a CHOP manifesto, which reads something like, type like you're teaching, speak like you mean it, expect to fail, then learn. Nothing is sacred unless it works. The AI is not your intern, it's your mirror. Like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole, CHOP often led us into peculiar territory. Strange edge cases, conversations about data persistence that felt philosophical, realizations that we'd gone too far, cached too much, trusted the machine just a touch too blindly. And then clarity. CHOP always brings you back to what matters, to the moment where the form appears with the fields you've just spoken aloud, to the sigh of relief from a user who doesn't have to enter their name for the third time. It's not just a methodology, it's a beat, and we've learned to build in time with it. The more we worked with CHOP, the clearer our architectural pattern became. Agnostic front-end works equally well for voice, avatar, or instant messaging. LLM-powered schema generator converts conversation into JSON form definitions. No SQL data layer stores form responses as structured but flexible documents. Form renderer dynamically presents the right inputs, validations, and layout. Memory layer captures entities and context across the session like names, addresses, and prior answers. No more asking the same thing twice. No more blank forms. No more disconnect between the conversation and the work. One of the biggest lessons: caching is both your best friend and your worst enemy. We built systems that remembered things helpfully until they remembered too much. We witnessed the law of unexpected consequences in real time. A variable cached from one session being resurfaced out of context 2 days later. Result? Confusion, mistrust, and a GDPR headache. Let's be honest, GDPR isn't a nice-to-have, it's a line in the sand, especially when you're recording, storing, and replaying information through voice or text. That meant setting new ground rules. Never store identifiable data without explicit consent. Never repeat personal data in cached audio. Never infer identities when you're unsure. We taught our assistants to forget, unless specifically told to remember. We trained our audio layers to redact first names. We stripped surnames from transcripts. That's not just compliance, it's design integrity. User, I need to do a fire risk assessment for the Haverhill site. Hector, got it. Is that 20 Rookwood Way, Haverhill? User, yep. Hector, for today, 15th May? And are you the assessor? User, yes, Phil Beresford Davis. Hector, one moment, I'll generate the form. And then the form appears, already populated with site address 20 Rookwood Way, Haverhill. Date 15 May 2025. Assessor Phil Beresford Davis. All captured naturally, conversationally, and without repetition. This isn't a gimmick. This is the future of digital compliance, conversationally driven, domain-specific, and human-paced. It hasn't all been coffee and clever code. Sometimes our LLM assistant hallucinated. Sometimes it gave advice outside its remit. Sometimes a single misconfigured variable caused a cascade of flawed logic. We've had to fork back to cleaner states, Lock down layers of logic and validate each assistant against industry standards like ISO 45001, FCA regulations and COSH. This work is messy, but it's necessary because when people rely on your assistant for safety reports, insurance forms or site inspections, you can't fake trust. Every form created this way becomes part of a multifunctional data repository, ready to integrate with Salesforce, SAP, Microsoft, or bespoke internal systems. Over time, we'll add auto-generated dashboards, integration scaffolding, lifecycle analytics, like when forms are reused, amended, or left incomplete, and domain-specific upgrades for each advisor persona. But we're not waiting for version 5.0 to deliver value. We're doing it now. Why build when you could just buy? It's a fair question. With so many AI agents on the market, slick, pre-packaged, press and play, it's tempting to ask, why build any of this from scratch? Here's why. Because what we're building isn't an agent. It's a framework for purpose. Off-the-shelf avatars are impressive, yes, but they're also shallow. Optimized for conversation, not completion. They're trained to be agreeable, not accountable. They demo well, but they rarely deliver when the work gets specific. What we need in the real world, on job sites, in claims centers, on audits and inspections, is more than good manners and a synthetic smile. We need agents that understand domain context, that can pre-fill forms based on prior conversation, that know when to escalate to a human, that log, route, validate, and remember the things that matter, and forget the things that don't. And the truth is, you can't buy that. You have to build it. Not from scratch necessarily, but from intentional blocks, frameworks, memory layers, schema generators, UI renderers, data handlers. It's closer to Lego than legacy. We choose our bricks, we choose how they click, and we assemble something that isn't generic, it's genuinely useful. Because the people using this aren't personas, they're people, and they deserve better than off the shelf. Because it's not about us. It's about the people who use systems every day and want them to be less painful, more purposeful, and just a bit more human. We believe AI should assist, not frustrate. That it should know what's already been said, that sometimes you need to stop, go back 12 versions and take a new path with purpose. And that the best systems start, as this one did, over a conversation and a coffee. If you've made it this far, thanks for reading, watching or listening. And if you'd like to build this into your business, you know where to find us. advisorynexus.com. #human first AI, #built fast made to last, #advisorynexus, #Hector is here, #workflow reimagined, #flat white framework, #fail fast, learn faster, #purpose built AI.